fountain, which is attributed to Marcel Duchamp, is easily the most important artwork of the last 100 years. I'm not saying it's the most beautiful or that it speaks to the most impressive skills or anything like that. I'm talking about how important the role was that it had in redefining what art is and what it could be. Although it's not technically a postmodern artwork since it was made in 1917 before the postmodern era, it does embody appropriation, which is another postmodern term, which refers to art made with the use of existing images and objects. It was a large slap in the face to the high art establishment, and it challenged the very core of what the West considered art. Photographer Richard Prince is well known for photographing photographs. Yes, you heard that right. He photographed pre-existing photographs and represented them as his own, such as this case where he photographed a Marlboro advertisement and then presented it as his own artwork in a gallery. Another postmodern term is simulacrum, which is an imitation, copy, or reproduction of an experience of the real thing. Here's one example. So you're probably all familiar with Betty Boop.
Ain't you kind of clean and ain't you kind of gay? When you hear me say I love you, tell me, baby, or ain't you? Boop, boop, be-doo.
She was actually, that drawing and voice was an imitation of the singer Helen Kane. Who herself rose to fame imitating Annette Hanshaw.
Now we're both so happy because at last we found that we just couldn't say goodbye.
A jazz singer in the 1920s. And Annette Hanshaw was imitating Baby Esther Jones, an African-American jazz singer. Meanwhile, Betty Boop was a copy of a copy of a copy, and she outlasts both the original and the copies. This is an example of a simulacrum. Let's talk about a few other postmodern terms: hybridization, layering, and recontextualizing. Hybridization articulates two more disparate cultural elements to show a new and distinct entity. Teraoka bridges his global identity as a Japanese-born American artist. In this work, he sets the stage in Hawaii, which is the perfect landscape to address the mashup of both cultures. He uses the tradition of ukiyo-e prints in a contemporary way to announce Vaccine Celebration Day in 1990. Postmodernists are comfortable mixing media. Robert Rauschenberg made artworks called combines that were part painting, part collage, and part sculpture. Recontextualizing means positioning a familiar image in relationship to pictures, symbols, or texts with which it is not usually associated in order to generate meaning in an artwork. Fred Wilson took a wooden post used for whipping slaves alongside wooden furniture from the same period. He's calling attention to the dichotomy, or the double-sidedness, of brutality and the ornate lifestyles that coexisted during the Maryland slave owners' lives within a museum setting. For a long time, women have been the object of desire in art, there to passively accept the viewer's eyes upon them, as in the image on the screen by Hans Memling. The gaze refers to the tendency to represent women in ways that heighten the sexual or erotic aspects of their bodies and present art from the viewpoint of the heterosexual male viewer. Tracy Emin takes a sex-positive approach and sews the names of every person she ever slept with on the inside of a tent. She was bringing to light the female gaze, that women actively desire men or women. Postmodernism often deals with constructing identity as well. We can see that identity includes characteristics that define you or another person, and they can be socially determined based on race, ethnicity, religion, gender, and sexual orientation. Identity politics take political action to advance the interests of members of a group by virtue of a shared identity. Art based on race, gender, ethnicity, and social issues rather than traditional aesthetics. Check out this piece by Guillermo Gomez Peña and Coco Fusco. They created a performance piece in which they locked themselves in a cage and put themselves on display, much in the same way that anthropology museums take aspects from global cultures and showcase them in an exploitative and disconnected way. Gomez Peña speaks from the voice of a Mexican man living in America. He uses art to expose the legacy of colonialism and to take ownership of his contemporary existence. Postmodern artists love humor and irony, as seen in this Altoids Mint ad, which plays with humor, shame, and commerce all in one. Irony is when words and images convey the opposite of what they say and show. In Janine Antoni's piece, Gnaw, the artist sculpted giant blocks of chocolate and lard by chewing on them with her own teeth. She then spit out what she chewed and melted the remnants down to create 2 boxes of chocolates and tubes of lipstick, 2 items associated with romance. But once you start thinking about how they were made, it's pretty disgusting. Postmodern art is full of artworks that are de-skilled as well. De-skilling refers to art that appears to be made without the formal training typically associated with the technical aspects of being an artist, such as learning how to paint or sculpt realistically. The initial concept was to make art more accessible to the masses, to assure anyone that they could in fact be an artist, that they could make the art that they see in a gallery or museum. All right, that's all for this week. I hope you're all doing all right. Please keep in touch, let me know how things are going, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions at all. All right, take care.